It was not you who sent me here, but God. It was not you who sent me here, but God. You thought that that pain and that suffering you went through was somebody else's fault. I'm here to tell you today, if you live for the living God, if you believe that your steps are ordered by God, nothing that happens to you could be blamed on the devil. Why? Because God orders all your steps, not the devil. But people say, look what the devil is doing to me. Look what this person doing. You need to ask yourself why. You need to ask yourself, why is God allowing me to go through this? Some of you are like, oh man, that's messed up. Some of you are like, man, you just poured water in my Cheerios. You need to realize something. Look what he said. It isn't because of you that I'm here. I'm here because God brought me through this. And you know what? If he would have not went through that pit, if he would have not went through that prison, he never would have made it to a palace. And that's why he could say to them, I'm going through what I'm going through here today. I've gone through what I've gone through, and I stand here on my own 2 feet because it was God's plan for my life. The devil can't bring me down. You didn't bring me down. Nobody held me back. God brought me to where I'm at today. You can't let people hold you down. You can't. There's so many Christians walking around saying, oh, the devil. I almost said the diablo, because I remember in Spanish church, there was these sisters that they would always get them to testify. De gracias a mi Diosito que me salió del diablo. That's what they were saying. I want to thank God for my little God who saved me from the devil. They gave the devil more credit than they gave God. I'm here to tell you this morning, I don't care what you just went through. I don't care what you're going through right now. God will see you through it if you say to yourself, my God is in charge, he's in control. But it will not happen if you're not the kind of person that releases people from what they've done. Many people can't receive forgiveness because they can't forgive. Remember what I told you last week? As you forgive others, God will forgive you. I told you that last week. As you forgive others, God will forgive you. Well, I'm telling you this morning, as you set others people free, God will set them free too. There are people walking around that you have every right to hold on to what they did to you. You have every right to hold it up in their face and say, look, I'm still suffering from what you did last summer. I'm still going through this because you walked out on me. You left me alone. You made me raise these children by myself. You weren't here. You weren't there. I got locked up because you got caught. It was your drugs in the car. It was my friend's gun. Officer, I don't know where that came from. Never seen it before. I mean to tell you, God is allowing it for a reason. God allowed it to happen for a reason. Jerry Dyer was telling me on Thursday, they started something on Wednesday called the Ceasefire Gang Initiative. And at the board meeting, Jerry brought it up, and I was telling Jerry after the meeting, I said, Jerry, I don't know if there can be a ceasefire. I go, and I don't know if it's your job to be out here to try to intervene and get people out of gangs. I go, it ain't the police's fault that people are in gangs. It ain't the police's fault that the kids are not in Little League. And we don't pay the chief of police to start Little Leagues. We don't pay the chief of police to keep it. I pay you to do one thing and one thing in it. Enforce the law. That's what I told him. Enforce the law. He goes, you know what? I wish more people felt the way you do. But most people think we're to blame for all the crime that happens in Fresno. He goes, there was a bishop in the meeting last night. This is what Jerry said. And this African-American bishop from the west side, he stood up and he told the people, I didn't do enough time. Because the first time I went to prison, I didn't do enough time. He goes, I got out on a technicality. Guess what? I went out and did another crime that got me 20 years. He goes, but I did all 20 years. And in those 20 years, God changed my life. Now look at what he's saying. What he was saying was, I had to go through prison, literally. He was saying, the first time I got out too soon, because I went out messing around. Because the second time I did all 22 years, guess what? 20 years, he goes, guess what? I'm never going back. Some of you need to go through things because you ain't gone through enough things. Let me say that in another way. Some of you need to go through things because you ain't gone through enough things. That's another way. I said it that way, now I'm saying it this way. Do you understand yet? Algunos de nosotros tenemos que pasar por cosas porque no hemos pasado suficientes cosas. We haven't gone through enough. We are still blaming God. We're still saying it's God's fault. It was my old man's fault. It was my sister's fault. It was my upbringing. It was the police. It was the judge. No, it was you. And look what Joseph says. It ain't about you guys. God had a plan for my life. If you get pulled over on the way home today and they confiscate your car, how is that the police's fault? You driving around with no tags, blaming the police for pulling you over. I got pulled over one time when I had the excursion. He goes, do you know why I pulled you over? I said, because I'm Mexican. And he started laughing. He goes, you're lucky you got me. Anybody else would have thrown you in jail for that. He said, your plates are expired. I go, really? When? He goes, 4 months ago. Really, officer? Hey, you look nice in the uniform. But you lose, huh? Lose weight, huh? He gave me a fix-it ticket. $5 ticket, you know, get it fixed, send in the $5 or $10, whatever it is. But whose fault was it? It was my fault. It was my fault. Joseph says here, it ain't your fault. It had nothing to do with you guys. Y'all just get over yourselves. Y'all just keep going. God was doing something with me. That's for you Texans here today. I know that we have some Texans among us. So. He had been holding in all the pain. He had been holding in all the hurt. And that's why he was messing with them. That's why he threw them in prison. That's why he sent 10 of them away and kept another one in prison. That's why he put the cup in the back. He was messing with them. But after 20 years, after 20 years of holding on to this, he finally says to them and crying out, I'm your brother. Now you and I know that he had some good times and he had some bad times in those 20 years. Mostly bad times. He went through unspeakable pain. He went through unspeakable hurt. He went beyond things that are beyond explanation. Some of you are sitting here this morning and you had a tough life. You had it rough. Maybe your old man walked out on you. Maybe your mom didn't want to claim you. Maybe your parents threw you out. Maybe this had that. I'm here to tell you this morning, a point comes where you have to break and say, I forgive them. When they're afraid of him, and rightly so, they should be afraid of Joseph. He eased their mind by saying, it was all part of God's master plan for my life. It was all part of God's master plan for my life. He was able to see his pain and suffering as the work of God in his life. Now, this is looking back. This is, you know, they say hindsight is 20/20. Looking back now, he could look at the ordeal of his life and he could say, my God was at work in my life. But you see, when you're in the middle of that ordeal, when you're in the pit and when you're in the prison, you got to remember, God got me out of another pit before. Excuse me, he got me out of another prison before, and he'll do it again. What kept him through those 20 years? I don't know how he got through it. The Bible says he never questioned God, so it must have been about faith. It must have been about his love for God, and it must have been the hope that one day he'd see his father again. Because when he saw his brothers, he wanted to kill them. But when you're facing a pit or a prison, when you're facing something challenging, you need to remind yourself of the last challenge that God got you through. Hallelujah. You're sitting here right now facing something difficult. Guess what? You made it through that. Let me talk to the ladies really quick. The most horrifying, terrible thing they say you can go through is birth. They say it's the most violent act you can put the human body through and survive is birth. Guess what? Cancer can't do nothing to you that birth hasn't already done. Diabetes, high cholesterol, a cold, whooping cough. Some people in the balcony. Okay, the rest of you in the balcony are going to get whooping cough. No, that's okay.
No, we're not.
She goes, I'm healed. There ain't nothing you can't say, you know what, I made it through that. And when your old man starts acting up, saying, I had children, you just another one. Guys, there's no worse pain, they say, than being brokenhearted. There's no pain like that, pain of a woman taking your heart out, throwing it on the floor, stepping on it, and going, ha! The ladies laughed, all the dudes were like, why's he gotta go there, man? I didn't find out about Chelly or Sylvia or Guadalupe or Consuelo or Connie, whoever, you know. So be like, he knows, I don't know. Sometimes my education goes out that door, I don't know. But I'm here to tell you, whatever you're going through right now, look at what you went through in the past. He's able to look back and say, my God got me through that. So you sitting here today need to say, I made it through that. So they want to take your house. Remember when you didn't even have a house? So they want to take your house. Say, man, please. I used to live with my aunt and my uncle, my cousins, 2 dogs, a cat, some guys from the gang. I mean, we all lived in one house. That's what you got to see. Please, we used to live in a mobile home. All 3 of my mom's families, all 3 of her sisters and us, we used to go work in the fields, and there'd be 4 of us sleeping in one camper.